Hello and welcome to a rather damp Rustavi International Motor Park in Georgia for round one of the 2017 TCR International Series. Hello everyone, this is Mark James in the commentary box. Wherever you are in the world watching this on live stream, you're most welcome. And the weather has thrown up a few surprises. There was talk of snow showers today, but as it turns out, it's just rain. But the problem being is that every session, bar one, since we started running cars on Friday, has been dry. And so the 2-hour test session on Friday and the two half-hour free practice sessions yesterday, together with qualifying yesterday afternoon, all dry. It was only the shakedown this morning, the little 10-minute confirmation test this morning that was wet. And so that's all the time the teams have had, some of them running new cars, to run those cars on wet weather tyres. That's the man on pole position, a hugely popular pole position, David Kajaya, known as Data here in Georgia. And it's a little wave for the camera, hugely popular. You can possibly hear the cheers from the grandstand. The grid then, starting from pole position, David Kajaya in the Alfa Romeo with Attila Tashi alongside him in the Honda, Ferenc Fikscher, another Hungarian, and Jean-Carl Venet on row 2, Roberto Colciago and Stefano Camini row 3, Gianni Morbidelli, and a newcomer to TCR International, Ugo Valente on row 4. The top 10's rounded off by Pepe Oriola and Giacomo Altoe, the 16-year-old Italian. Then it's James Nash and Matteo Homola, Dusan Borkovic, now in another Alfa, Pierre-Yves Cortals in an Opel, and then the back row of the grid, the American Duncan Indy, and 16th and last on the grid at his own track, another Alfa Romeo for Shota Abkazava. That, though, was the man that was quickest in that shakedown this morning on the wet tyres. Who knows if that will mean anything? Two-time TCR International Series champion Stefano Camini switching at the very last minute, and I mean the very last minute. The deal only came together about a fortnight ago. Come to You Racing from Belgium, running Camini. There he is with the number 1 on his door, and he is in the Seoul Audi RS3 LMS car. Jean-Carl Venet, number 2. Colciago, Roberto Colciago, who won in Sepang last year in TCR International and also won the TCR Italy title in a Honda run by Mira Racing. Now, at this point, I also have to congratulate the boss of Mira Racing, Norbert Michelic, who is probably watching at home in Hungary. Mira Racing, I know there's a 1 in it, but it is pronounced Mira, and there is also another good reason. Congratulations to Norbert and his wife for the birth of their daughter on Friday during the 2-hour test session, and their little girl is also called Mira. Congratulations from all of us in the TCR family. Pepe Oriola then. Craft Bamboo Lukoil on paper with the strongest team. 3 proven race winners in Oriola, James Nash, and Ugo Valente that I mentioned a moment or two ago. A few grumbles, a few moans that the balance of performance didn't favour the Seats, but you have to say that the 3 Craft Bamboo Lukoil cars, all brand new. Ferenc Fikscher, you see him there, 3rd in the points table after the qualifying points were awarded. 5 through to 1, remember, for the top 5. Fikscher in a 2016 car that was run at Macau at the end of last season, and 3rd on the grid. There is James Nash, runner-up to Stefano Camini in the 2016 TCR International Series, and 1/3 of that formidable Craft Bamboo Lukoil lineup. You look at the grid, there is pole position, there is Kajaya on the right of your screen. And the commentator here at Rustavi doing the best to wind up the local crowd. It's a very compact track, only 2 grandstands, and they tell me that the capacity is only around 7,000 or 8,000. Hello and welcome to our television audience around the world. Welcome to the Rustavi International Motor Park here in Georgia for an historic event, the first international motorsport championship event ever held in Georgia, and the honour falls to the TCR International Series. Round 1 of the championship then here at Rustavi, 4.14 kilometres, a track that fell into disrepair for about 20 years or so, restored about 6 or 7 years ago at a cost of around $25 million US. And you see in the foreground a very popular pole sitter. That is David Kajaya, known as Data here in Georgia. And the hashtag GoDataGo has been trending in Georgia for the last week or 10 days. and he has put the G-Force Alfa Romeo on pole position for race 1. Alongside Kajaya on the grid will be Attila Tashi, the 17-year-old from Hungary in the Honda Civic. Row 2, Ferenc Fikcer, another Hungarian in a Seat. Jean-Carl Venet alongside him. Row 3, Roberto Colciago and reigning TCR champion Stefano Camini. Then it's Gianni Morbidelli and Ugo Valente, newcomer to TCR International, on row 4. Row 5, Pepe Oriola and the 16-year-old Italian who will be on pole for race 2, Giacomo Altoe, James Nash and Matteo Homola behind them. And then it's Dusan Borkovic and Pierre-Yves Cortals, and the final row of the grid, the American Duncan Indy. And last but not least, the owner of the circuit here at Rustavi, Shota Abkhazia, in the Alfa Romeo. 15-second board then to our green flag lap. 15 laps the race distance, and the weather may well play a part in proceedings. We've had dry test session on Friday, dry free practice on Saturday morning, dry qualifying on Saturday afternoon, but the rain has been falling steadily here all day. You see the lights are on, they're on wet tyres, the wipers are going. It was only this morning's brief 10-minute shakedown session that was run in the wet, and so a lot of these drivers with new teams, new cars, they've only had those 10 minutes on the wet tyres this morning, so who knows what can happen. Honours so far have been dominated by Hungarian drivers. It was Ferenc Fikcer, the 20-year-old, quickest in testing, quickest in free practice 1. In free practice 2, it was Attila Tashi, and then qualifying, as you saw there, dominated in the final stages of Q2 with about 3 minutes remaining by David Kajaya. Lots of changes if you were with us for the TCR International Series last year. Just 2 Honda Civics, 2 Opel Astras, just 1 Leopard Racing Volkswagen Golf. The West Coast Racing team having switched from Hondas to a pair of Volkswagen Golfs. And there is the solitary Audi RS3 LMS for Come To You Racing and the reigning TCR International champion, the 2-time champion, Stefano Camini. And Camini struggling, not feeling great on Friday, and struggling yesterday to find a decent setup. He was saying that the car is a lot more tricky to drive at the rear end. The rear end is working a lot more because of the saloon, the sedan design of the car, rather than the hatchbacks, the 2-box designs that he's been used to in the past. And he was admitting that it'll probably take a couple of races here in Georgia and the next round in Bahrain in 2 weeks' time for him and the team to come to terms with the car. That, though, an awful lot of nerves. You can feel it, can't you? 3 Alfa Romeo Giuliettas, one of which is on pole position for David Kajaya. Dusan Borkovic, the giant of a man, problems yesterday with his steering, and so he is way back in 13th on the grid. And then finally, it's the guest driver here in Georgia, the circuit owner, Shota Abkhazia, 16th and last on the grid after an engine change on Friday meant he missed the or yesterday morning, excuse me, missed the second free practice session. There is Camini, very attractive livery, that black and blue in the Audi. What can he do? He was quickest in shakedown this morning. Does that mean anything? Does it mean that he's getting the best out of those wet tyres? And the cheers, I'm sure you can hear as the cars line up on the grid. The marshals putting them into position. And in mere moments, we will be underway for the 2017 TCR International Series, just the 3rd year of this touring car competition, and how far we've come since it all began a little over 2 years ago. 16 entries then, all 16 line up on the grid. And on the right of your screen, watch for David Kajaya, as I know Michele Ceruti and the team will be. Kajaya has to make a good start. The marshals just lining everybody up in their boxes. Is that somebody out of position? That is possibly Cortals, you see on the left of your screen. Marginally out of position. The marshals, though, clear away. There they go. Green flag is waved. We're waiting for the lights to go on. When they go off, we are racing. Watch for that start. Can Kajaya get the jump on Attila Tashi? Will the 17-year-old Tashi lead into the first right-hand turn one? Lights go on. Lights go off. We are racing in 2017. The TCR International Series is underway. That was Giacomo Altoe, the young Italian in the dark blue West Coast Racing Volkswagen, who just came out slightly. Good start from Kajaya. A little bumping and banging in the field. Oh, and Comini makes contact with Jean-Carl Venet, the former teammates. Comini in the Audi, Jean-Carl Venet in the familiar turquoise Volkswagen Golf. There is Kajaya. Tashi behind him. Then it's Fixer. 1, 2, 3, as we saw on the grid. Then it's Colciago in the second of the Mira Racing Hondas. Then it's Comini, then Venet, then it's the first of the Craft Bamboo Lukoil cars. Oh, more contact. This time it's Valente with Borkovic muscling his way through. There is Borkovic. And there is Duncan Indy from California. Let's watch to see if Jean-Carl Venet will repay the favour. No, indeed, everybody cleanly through that left-hander. That's turn 8 running down to turn 9. Turn 10. So Kajaya then from Tashi, from Fixture. Jean-Carl Venet has got past... No, excuse me. Jean-Carl Venet has not got past Stefano Comini. So it's still Roberto Colciago in 4th place. Then Comini, then Venet. At the end of lap 1 then, we're on lap 2 of 15. David Kajaya leads from Attila Tashi. Ferenc Fixture 3rd, Colciago 4th, Comini 5th, Venet 6th. Then it's Pepe Oriola, Giacomo Altoe, ahead of Gianni Morbidelli. That's a turn up for the books. Dusan Borkovic, Valente, Homola, then Nash, Cortals, and Duncan Indy, and then a long, long way back is Shota Abkajava. As we peer through the gloom of this heavy rain, there are the two West Coast Racing cars with Morbidelli coming under pressure from Borkovic. There is Indy. And Comini now leaning on the back of Roberto Colciago. Kajaya's advantage 8/10 of a second already, as Tashi defending from Fixture. Comini having a little look, but there's no real prospect from there. Oh, he dives up the inside! Comini up alongside Colciago, and he passes. So Comini takes 4th from Colciago. Now, I really didn't think that was on. Colciago must have made some kind of mistake. So Fixture 3rd, Comini now 4th, then it's Colciago. Then it's Venet, with Oriola breathing down Venet's neck. Then it's the two West Coast Racing Volkswagens. Then it's Borkovic. Then Valente. Let's just take another look at that start. Catch our breaths for a moment. Brilliant start from Kajaya. Fixture moves across, but no, can't do anything about Tashi. He blocks nicely. And it was Comini who moved right across to the right of your screens. And this is the moment. There it is, the contact between Comini and Venet. And I think that was almost certainly a racing incident. I don't think there was any way that could have been avoided. Contact too between Borkovic and Valente. That's where Borkovic just made his presence felt in the first round of the season. The leaders are on lap 3. Still Kajaya from Tashi, from Fixture. Comini still 4th ahead of Colciago. Then it's Venet, Pepe Oriola, Giacomo Altoe, and Gianni Morbidelli. Borkovic up to 10th. Borkovic passed Morbidelli, and we didn't see that. Potentially we'll see it on a replay. And Kajaya is pulling away. The gap now 1.4 seconds, up from 8/10 the previous lap. It's two Hungarians scrapping for second. Tashi ahead of Fixture. You see Kamini playing the waiting game in fourth. And this is always the way with two tight touring car races back to back. Race one, although I'm probably jinxing it, saying is slightly more sedate than the second. No one can risk a non-finish in race one and then being unable to repair the car in time for race two. Headlights still ablaze. The rain doesn't appear to be getting any heavier, but it equally doesn't appear to be slowing either. Fixture closing up on Tashi. Kamini behind. As and what are we seeing here? This is turn 4, and Duncan Indy runs wide and avoids getting into the gravel. That's where Gianni Morbidelli went off yesterday in qualifying. And turn 4 has caught out quite a few drivers already this weekend. Duncan Indy from California set up the Icarus Motorsports team. Only the one car here in Georgia, but the plan is to run 2 or even possibly 3 as time goes on. He was quoted as saying this morning that he thinks that TCR is very much the future and he wants to be a part of it. Oh, was that Tashi running a little bit wide? I think it was. Fixture gets right up behind him. Kamini too, closing the gap. The slightest of driving errors by Tashi, nearly opening the door. The youngster, actually they're both youngsters, 17 and 20. But the 17-year-old just making the slightest of driving errors, running wide and almost allowing Fixture to get past. And Kamini, it looked unlikely yesterday that he'd be troubling the podium, but you have to say the experience, the guile, the racemanship of Stefano Kamini means he's fourth, breathing down the neck of those two young Hungarians. Behind Kamini, a slight gap to Colciago in fifth, then Jean-Carl Venet, then Oriola. But we're looking at this scrap quite rightly for second, third and fourth. Kajaya's lead having stretched now to over 2 seconds. Around turn 12 onto the start-finish straight. To start lap 5. There we are. As we said, cars 1 and 2, that's Kamini and Venet, and also Borkovic and Valente, no further action, both deemed to be racing incidents. And rightly so, as Fixture makes another move on Tashi. Quite rightly, our TV director letting the leader go. This is the battle that's going to captivate us, I suspect, for most of this race. Tashi at the moment holding his nerve, holding on to second place. Fixture, though, breathing all over the back of that Honda. And Kamini waiting to pounce in fourth. So Tashi, Fixture, Kamini, second, third, fourth. Fifth is Colciago, sixth is Venet, seventh is Oriola. Eighth is Altoe, ninth is Borkovic, Morbidelli 10th. And outside the points at the moment, Valente, Homola, James Nash, Pierre-Yves Cortals, Pilou in the Opel, Duncan Indy and Shota Abkashava right at the back of the field. Now, contact? No, that looked clean. That was Mato Homola, the number 70 car, snatching 11th place away from James Nash. And Nash saying how frustrated he was. I think a little bit of head scratching is needed at Craft Bamboo Lukoil. We look back through the field. And it's Nash now all over the back of Valente's car. Can Nash get into the points? Oh, Valente slides wide, allowing Nash to dive up the inside. You see just how tricky these conditions are. That's at turn 12, the left-hander that gets us back onto the start-finish straight. So indeed, Nash takes 12th. Can he make up 2 more places and get into the points? Valente drops 2 places. So Pierre-Yves Cortals also gets past, and Fixture now, while we were watching that battle, Fixture has moved into second place. So where did that happen? Fixture having passed Tashi. So it's still Hungarian drivers 2 and 3, but it's now Ferenc Fikscher in the Seat ahead of Attila Tashi in the Honda. That's the contact between, that's the moment that Valente slid wide going into turn 12. And do we also have the moment at which second place turned hands? Nope, there's another angle of Valente. Still learning TCR, still learning the cars. As Ferenc Fikscher moves across to block Tashi. Kamini up alongside, but he's going the long way around the left-hander. So Kamini tucked up and inside. Does he dive at this point? No, not quite close enough. Tashi defends well from Kamini. So Kajaya's lead over 2 seconds, 2.1 seconds the lead. Fikscher now off in pursuit of the Georgian driver. Attila Tashi still third, ahead of the determined Stefano Kamini. We're only on lap 6 of 15 though, still a long, long way to go. There is Kajaya, our race leader, a lonely race for him, as once again Fikscher moves back over to the left-hand side of the track to block. Then Tashi, then Kamini. Colciago still fifth, ahead of Venet and Pepe Oriola. As Kamini dives up the inside, does he keep the line? Is there enough room? Only just. Kamini and Tashi alongside each other. And he does it. Kamini moves past, squeezes past. Brilliant driving from the Swiss driver. Kamini then takes third place, so away from a disappointed Attila Tashi. But I suspect that is a scrap that's going to continue. Ferenc Fikscher, yeah, you saw off in pursuit of our race leader, David Kajaya. Kamini now up into third, defending furiously from Tashi. Colciago you saw in the background, as Valente is in the pits getting attention. And I'm unclear why. Has he flat-spotted his tyres, possibly? I doubt that one incident would have done it, unless there's been contact. So Kajaya then still leads from Fikscher. Kamini now third in the Audi. That would be a brilliant recovery. This is the moment. Dives up the inside. Tashi just left the door slightly too wide open for Kamini, and you don't do that when you've got Kamini behind you. So there is Fikscher, there's Kamini, there is Tashi. Colciago just behind in the predominantly red Mira Racing Honda. There are the two West Coast Racing cars. Altoe ahead of Borkovic, who is in turn ahead of Morbidelli. The crowd still loving this. Go, Data, go. The lead still 2.1 seconds. As we watch the remainder of the field come through. There is Homola behind Morbidelli. There is Pilu. And there is James Nash in the 54 car. So Tashi now switching from attack to defence, defending from his far more experienced teammate, Roberto Colciago. And the gap between these two old rivals immediately picks up where it left off at the end of 2016. Jean-Carl Venet in the turquoise Leopard Racing Volkswagen Golf, the 2017 spec car, ahead of Pepe Oriola in the 74, the red Lukoil Craft Bamboo Seat Leon, again a 2017 car. There are the two Hondas. What can Oriola do? Currently just tucked in behind Venet, 6th and 7th, that pair. Will the conditions work to JK's advantage? The rain really throwing a joker at everybody today after having held off for the last few days. There is Oriola, there is Kamini, the man who beat Oriola to the title in 2015, And it was James Nash, Oriola's teammate, who finished as runner-up in 2016. And it's Fixture looking for a dry line towards the right-hander at turn one. The two Hondas up alongside each other. Colciago goes through. Once again, Tashi runs slightly wide. So Colciago snatches fourth place from his teammate, Attila Tashi. So it's Alfa Romeo from Seat, from Audi, from the two Hondas. Then behind is the Volkswagen of Jean-Carl Vernet, still holding Pepe Oriola at bay. And this is the moment. Tashi moves out wide, looking for a dry line. Colciago, though, holds the inside and just dives up the inside. And I suspect with the track being in the state it's in, finding a dry line going into that first corner is nigh on impossible. You see the raindrops on the camera lens still coming down here in Rustavi. So we're on lap 9 of 15. David Kajaya still leads. The lead still over 2 seconds from Ferenc Fixture. Stefano Camini now third in the Audi. Then it's Colciago. Then Tashi, Jean-Carl Vernet, Pepe Oriola, Giacomo Altoe, Dusan Borkovic ninth, which he'll be pleased with, I suspect, after that steering problem yesterday. And then behind Borkovic, it's Gianni Morbidelli in the final of the point-scoring positions. Remember, the grid for race 2 is reverse top 10. So Giacomo Altoe, the young Italian, the 16-year-old in the West Coast Racing Volkswagen, will start on pole. And you saw him briefly there at the back of the shot behind Pepe Oriola. There you saw Kajaya turning into turn one with Fixture, Camini, Colciago, Tashi, Vernet, Oriola, and Altoe you saw there just turning in. That's our top 8. 2/3 of the way through this opening race of the 2017 TCR International Series. The gap's now starting to open up. This, though, a fascinating scrap, as we saw so many times in 2016 between Jean-Carl Vernet and Pepe Oriola. Both were in the title hunt for last year's driver's title, going right down to the wire in Macau. Both said beforehand that they would probably be out of the running, but they would help their two teammates, Stefano Camini and James Nash, respectively. But as it happened, right down to the penultimate race of the season, those two were in the scrap. So there's Borkovic, there's Morbidelli. Behind Morbidelli is Cortals in the Opel. Excuse me, Homola in the Opel. I'm still getting used to the colour schemes. The gap coming down slightly between the leading pair. Kajaya now just 1.5 seconds or so ahead of Fixture, but of course Fixture's got a charging Stefano Camini behind him. That's the scrap for 6th, and there's the scrap for the lead. Camini, in fact, dropping back behind Fixture, who is closing definitely on Kajaya. Oriola still weaving around, looking to get back in. That is Valente. And more of an issue with that car than I thought originally. Jean-Carl Vernet and Pepe Oriola separated by a few tenths of seconds. The gap officially 4 tenths. As Ferenc Fixture just takes a look down the inside of Kajaya, thinks better of it, but that gap now has closed. It's now less than a second, having been well over 2 seconds for much of the race. Kajaya moves across to defend. Fixture, though, I suspect, will bide his time. The pressure is definitely on the Alfa. Fixture, quickest, remember, in testing on Friday, quickest in free practice 1 on Saturday morning. And he may well become the most unpopular man in Georgia if he passes David Kajaya to take the race victory. There is confirmation, the gap from 2 seconds to 1.6 to 0.8 in 3 laps. Fixture then on a charge. The gap back to Kamini is now 1.8 seconds or thereabouts. Fixture moves across, and there goes Kajaya to block. The crowd relieved that their man is still leading at the moment. Whether that's going to be the case in a couple of laps' time, I don't know. Through the right-hand turn 1, then this long left-hander, which just keeps tightening up and going back on itself at turn 2. And Fixture right up behind the back of the Alfa Romeo. When will Fixture make his move? You saw a familiar face there of Jaime Puig, the boss of Seat Sport. He would love to see a Seat win the first race of the season. Kajaya, and I suspect most of Georgia, has other ideas. Once again, Fixture dives up the inside and thinks better of it, or whether he's playing mind games with Kajaya. But certainly Kajaya held his nerve. There was no move there to block, unlike here. Into the 180 degrees of turn 8. Still a faultless drive from pole position from David Kajaya. Hasn't put a wheel wrong so far. And yet the pressure is now on from Ferenc Fixture. He's not got long left to do much about that lead of Kajaya's. And there as well is Kamini having closed up. Behind Kamini is Colciago in the first of the Hondas. We have a real scrap on our hands for the podium positions with just a couple of laps remaining here at Rustavi. So around turn 12, to the relief of the fans, comes Kajaya once again, holding off Fixture. The gap down to 0.3 of a second now. Kamini still third. There is Colciago in fourth. 4 different brands holding the top 4 places. An Alfa Romeo, a Seat, an Audi and a Honda. As once again, Kajaya holds the line through turn 2. Little wiggle from the rear of the Alfa. Fixture moves, Kajaya moves. Kamini waiting to pounce should either make a mistake. No, indeed. That was where Tashi let Colciago through a little earlier on. That's the sequence in the midfield in the second sector. So those gaps having tightened right up. 0.3 between David Kajaya and Ferenc Fixture. A similar gap, it would appear, back to Stefano Kamini in third. Colciago too, not out of that scrap either. Thank you, Mr. Timing Man, who's come up with the stats just in time. So 0.3 between first and second, 0.6 between second and third. And it's all boiling down to an extremely close finish to the first race of the 2017 TCR International Series here in Georgia. And I have to say, as David Kajaya comes round turn 12, one more time in the lead, the job done by Mulsanne Racing and the new G-Force team who run those Alfa Romeos. They've really done their homework during the winter. Kajaya drove the car in the TCR Middle East Series, gave the car its first podium finish in Abu Dhabi, and said at the time that he thought the car was really, really good and showed promise. And whatever's gone on over the winter, Kajaya is transformed from the man he was last year. He leads at home here in Georgia at the Rustavi International Motor Park from Ferenc Fixture. Stefano Camini third, Roberto Colciago fourth, Attila Tashi fifth. And if anything, those gaps are getting smaller. 3/10 now between first and second. Oh, a little wiggle from Kajaya. Oh, and look at Camini now, right up behind Fixture. So Fixture, does he defend or does he attack? Kajaya moves across to block. Colciago still in the scrap as well. We're on the penultimate lap, lap 14 of 15. And the man who was on pole position, David Kajaya, oh, contact between the two. Just a slight bump between Ferenc Fixture, and I think there might have been a nudge from Camini there too. The seconds are ticking away to the end of this first race. Kajaya, though, holds his nerve from Ferenc Fixture, from Camini, from Colciago. Those four running together to give what I suspect will be a cracking finish to this race. Around turn 12. Colciago moves up alongside, looks at the inside of Camini, but no, indeed, doesn't make it stick. So still, Kajaya from Fixture. Colciago this time does dive up at the inside of Camini. Has he grabbed third place? Camini on the inside for that long left-hander turn 2. No, indeed, Colciago runs slightly wide. Camini holds the place. This race isn't over yet. We might be on the last lap, but those podium positions are far from decided. Kajaya from Fixture, from Camini, from Colciago, who again takes a look. Camini blocks. Behind Colciago, his young teammate Attila Tashi. And as predicted beforehand, the race will be decided by the slightest of errors. At the moment, though, you have to say Kajaya hasn't put a wheel wrong all race. Fixture, to be fair to him, has put pressure on the Georgian driver, who once again moves across to block. Colciago takes a look up the inside of Camini, but doesn't go for that. And Fixture took a look, but I think was just too far behind the Alpha to make it stick. Camini still third, Colciago fourth, Tashi fifth. There is Venet. We've been concentrating on the battle for the podium positions. Venet still holding off Pepe Oriola. Can Kajaya hold on to win? Once again, Colciago takes a look, but he's on the outside line for the left-hander. Camini holds on, as does Kajaya. Around turn 12 for the final time, to the cheers of the crowd. There is the checkered flag. And across the line comes David Kajaya to take his first victory. And you can hear the reaction of the Georgian fans. Brilliant, brilliant drive under pressure from David Kajaya in the Alfa Romeo Giulietta, leaping around the team. They knew the car had potential. A lot of work has gone in over the winter. Ferenc Fixture in the Zeller Racing Seat Leon finishes second. Stefano Camini held off that determined charge from Roberto Colciago to finish third. Behind Colciago is Attila Tashi, Jean-Carl Venet, Pepe Oriola, Giacomo Altoe, Dusan Borkovic, and Gianni Morbidelli picks up a single point for finishing 10th. Outside the points, Homola in the Opel, Pierre-Yves Cortals, his teammate, in the other Opel. James Nash, he will be shaking his head, I suspect. Duncan Indy, Shota Abkajava, a long way behind, and as you saw earlier on, Valente in the pits with some kind of problem. The crowd absolutely loved that. That man will be in demand. We've got, I don't know how many Georgian TV stations here. And he will be in demand for interviews after the race. We had an opening ceremony for the track with traditional dancers. We had the voices of Georgia singing the national anthem, all stirring stuff. And did that inspire Kajaya to perform the way he did in front of his home fans? Brilliant drive. There is Venet. There is Oriola. There is Comini, who, if you'd have said to him on Friday, you'll finish on the podium in the first race, I think he would have bitten your hand off. He really was concerned on Friday, I think it's fair to say, that things just weren't coming together. And Audi Sport Customer Racing, they've got people here to support Stefano and the team. Come to you racing, and that deal came together at the very last minute. They hope to run a second Audi from the third race of the series onwards in Spa-Francorchamps, their home race in Belgium. But what a way to start the year for them. Third place for Comini, second for Fixture. A finish too for Duncan Indy. We hardly saw him in the blue and white Seat. And a very steep learning curve for Indy, as he admits, but whenever I see him, he has a smile on his face. As into the Parc Fermé area comes David Kajaya. Let's have a look at the reaction when Data gets out of the car. It's just across the start-finish straight from the grandstand that's gone quiet. Let's hear the reaction as Kajaya gets out of his car. Oh, don't fall off the car, Data. Please don't fall off the car. David Kajaya, winner of the first round of the 2017 TCR International Series. There is Michaela Cerruti, who's made the transition from driver to team manager. She must be absolutely delighted with the work that the team has put in. And indeed, the tears are starting to fall. A brilliant, brilliant result for the team. And we send our congratulations to them. And do you know, I think the 2017 TCR International Series already has the makings of being a real nail-biter. Let's take confirmation then of the results of this first of the rounds of the TCR International Series for 2017. David Kajaya wins from Ferenc Fixture. Stefano Comini finishes third. Roberto Colciago, Attila Tashi, Jean-Carl Venet, Pepe Oriola, Giacomo Altoe, Dusan Borkovic and Gianni Morbidelli are the men in the points. And it's these six men who won't take any points away from the first round here in Georgia. What a fantastic result. You saw just briefly there in the background in the grey overalls Fixture. That is Stefano offering his congratulations to both the men who finished ahead of him. A very fair, a very clean race. A little bumping and banging at the start, but as the race director and the stewards decided, already no further action. On goes the podium cap. That may well be something that David Kajaya gets used to during the year. Let's head down then to the pit lane, and our race winner is with Alfredo Filippone.
David Kajaya, what a fantastic day for you and for Georgia today.
Yeah, it's amazing, it's unbelievable. Look at this, how many people. I'm very proud. In my country, in Georgia, first win in TCR International. I have no words. I'm really, really more than happy. Thank you for everything.
It was a tough race because the end was really breathtaking.
Yeah, I damaged my front tires, and it was for me very hard at the end of the race, but I managed to keep my first place, and I'm very happy for it. It's awesome.
Well done, David, and a nice podium now in front of your crowd.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Well done, David. Well done, Alfredo, for getting in. So the winning margin in the end, just under 0.4 of a second. But just look at those gaps. Comini, Colciago and Tashi within 1.7, 1.8 seconds of the race winner. Vinay managed to hold off Oriola again by less than a second. Altoe, Borkovic and Morbidelli. And interestingly, Altoe, the 16-year-old Italian, holding off the 49-year-old Italian teammate, Gianni Morbidelli. And what'll that mean in race 2, I wonder, which is when Altoe starts from pole because of the reverse top 10. Huge excitement here in Georgia. And that will have done the sport and the track no harm whatsoever. So with the 5 points for qualifying on pole, Kajaya leads the Drivers' Championship by 9 points from Fixture. Comini leaps up into third ahead of Tashi. Colciago on 13 points, Vinay on 10, Oriola on 6, Altoe already 4, Borkovic 2, and Morbidelli just gets that 1 point for finishing in 10th place. So to the podium then. There is Fixture. Comini on the right of your screens, having finished third. And there is the biggest cheer of all for the winner of race 1, 33-year-old David Kajaya. Only been competing since 2005, mainly in Georgia. Finished 10th in the 2016 TCR International Series and starts his 2017 campaign off in the best possible way. Pole position in qualifying and winning race 1. And the Georgian national anthem. And the trophies to be awarded by Georgi Mgebrashvili, who's the Minister of Internal Affairs. And the ministry welcomed us to Georgia on Thursday. They've been hugely supportive of the event and the circuit. And there will be a huge smile and a hug, I suspect, for the man supported by Georgia, popular winner of this first round of the TCR International Series. There is the winner's trophy for the winning team. The car developed by Romeo Ferrari's engineering in Italy, run last year by... Well done, Stefano, well spotted. The car run last year by Mulsanne Racing. The team transformed into G-Force. There is the smile, I thought. There will be the hug. David Kajaya, look at that smile. That says it all. That's what that victory means to him. And the hours of testing and development have all been worth it. That Alfa Romeo Giulietta is now a race winner. So nice and close, everybody, for some photographs, I suspect.
And champagne, please.
Now, at this point, you'd expect there to be the champagne technicians. Somebody bringing on the Pommery. Up. Here they come. And David, I suspect, is going to get a soaking to mark his first victory. And the man on the right of your screens, I suspect, is going to be the man who will lead that soaking. Oh, no, he's a reformed character these days. So, victory number 1 of the 2017 TCR International Series goes then to David Kajaya. Well done, Ferenc. You can't let that victory go without a little champagne bath. Ferenc Fikscher, second, and there is Kamini finishing third. So, join us again in a short while for race 2, which begins at 3:30 Georgian time. See you later.